Before we begin, if you would like a follow-along guide for this video, check out the link in the description box below for my Teachers Pay Teachers account. Thank you, and let's begin. Hi everybody, and welcome back to another civics video. In today's video, we'll be talking about the Articles of Confederation. Now, in this video, for convenience sake, I'll be shortening the Articles of Confederation at some points to the phrase AOC. Just know I'm talking about this document and not this politician. But with that out of the way, let us begin. Prior to the United States existing, we had the colonies of Great Britain. The colonies had some major issues with the British monarchy and the British Parliament. Some of those issues were the lack of participation in government and the inability to elect representatives and more. Once the colonies were able to separate or leave Great Britain, they had to create their brand new government from scratch addressing these two issues. But how do you start a government from nothing? The Founding Fathers had a lot of jobs on their hands, and the way they addressed those jobs is through the Articles of Confederation. The United States' first attempt at government was the Articles of Confederation. AOC was adopted by the Continental Congress in 1777. AOC was the first constitution, but it isn't the constitution that we know and follow today. But it was the first, which is why I previously called AOC the first attempt at government. We know that we have a different constitution now than we did in the 1700s. So what happened to the Articles of Confederation? Simply put, it failed. It was weak, it was ineffective, it did some things right, but it did a lot wrong. What we're going to focus on today is what were the failures of AOC and what happened as a result of those failures. The 6 main failures that you need to know for the Articles were that they had no judicial branch, no strong central leader, no way to raise funds, no common currency, it was difficult to amend, and lack of control. Let's break down each one of these issues and highlight why they were negatives, starting off with the judicial branch. The Articles of Confederation simply did not establish a separate judicial branch. This meant that the court system was left up to individual states. But why is that a problem? Well, for 3 reasons. Reason number 1 is that there's a lack of consistency for laws. At the time of the AOC, there are 13 states. If all 13 states has their own laws, how could anyone keep track of what is or is not legal in 13 different locations? It's hard to remember the laws of 13 different locations, but nowadays we have 50 states. So if this system was still in place today, we would have to memorize 50 different laws for 50 different states instead of having one unified system of laws that applied to each state within the country. Next is that the states could override national laws. This means that state law was more valued and followed than national law. If there was a national law that a state disagreed with, they could simply not follow it. The error of this idea will become more apparent when we get to the 1860s, but in the 1770s, that still showed a lack of federal strength. And the third reason is that there was no way to file a complaint against the national government. This means you can't sue the government. The Supreme Court of the United States hears court cases all the time that deal with the expansion of rights for Americans. And if Americans can't sue for more rights, how can more rights be given to American citizens? They can't. So this really shows the ineffectiveness and the issues of not having a judicial branch in the U.S. government. Next up, no strong central leader. The judicial branch wasn't the only branch of government that was forgotten in AOC. The drafters also forgot an executive branch. Yes, the role of president did technically exist under the Articles, but what did the president do? Sort of nothing. Why is this a problem? For 2 reasons. 1, this placed most powers in the hands of states. We mentioned for the judicial branch that this meant that there was a lack of consistency. But this also shows that the United States was acting more like 13 separate mini nations instead of one new together country. The country was called the United States, but this was not a group of United States. Also, there was no one to enforce laws. The main role of the executive branch is to enforce the laws, and if there is no executive branch, how can we ensure that these laws are being followed fairly and safely? Next up is no way to raise funds. So, taxes. Americans usually hate on taxes, but, and stay with me here, taxes usually aren't that bad. Taxes is what allows us to have public schools, safe roads, police and fire departments. All of that and so much more is paid for by the taxes of American citizens. Yes, taxes get a reputation of being inconvenient and expensive and just complicated, but it's okay to give a little bit of love to taxes. Unfortunately, under AOC, there is no way to collect taxes. Because of this, the country is broke. If the US has no money, they can't afford to pay soldiers who fought in the Revolutionary War. Heck, they can't afford to pay for anything. Remember this important detail of the inability to pay soldiers who fought in the war, because this is going to come back in a major way later on in the video. Next is no common currency. Okay, this one is pretty self-explanatory. Currency is the type of money used within a country. This meant that under the Articles, each state had its own unique currency. Why is this a problem? Wouldn't it be cool if you had a unique New York dollar and then, wow, you can also have a unique Virginia-only dollar? Well, this made it incredibly difficult to conduct business between states. This is like if I was doing a business deal with someone and I'm trying to have them pay me in monopoly money because my state back home accepts monopoly dollars. But the person I'm doing business with only has bells from Animal Crossing. What is the exchange rate between these two currencies? How many bells equals one monopoly dollar? Does my bank back home in my state even accept Animal Crossing bells? This becomes a nightmare for business deals between states. Again, this shows a lack of consistency. Each state is doing its own thing. There is not one American dollar. There are 13 state dollars. Next up, we have it being difficult to amend. Amend means to change. The Founding Fathers knew that when they created this government in 1777, it wouldn't stay the same way forever. The government would have to change over time. However, they made the Articles pretty difficult to change. Under AOC, all 13 states would have to agree to the change. This was nearly impossible because each state was different and, as previously discussed, was governed differently and had different laws. This is a challenge to get all 13 states to agree on something. But think of this in the 21st century. In order to amend articles, we would need to have all 50 states agree on something. And good luck with that. It was impossible for the Articles of Confederation to change with just 13. It would be definitely impossible to change with 50 having to unanimously agree on something. Under this system, even if one state said no, a new amendment to the Confederation could not happen. Way to go, Virginia. Way to ruin it for the rest of us. The final reason why the Articles of Confederation failed is because of the lack of control. Under AOC, the national government could not regulate international trade. Why is this a problem? Well, each state had its own different trade practices with foreign nations. Some states traded with France, and some states traded with Britain. There was no consistency, yet again. We just dove in on the 6 reasons why AOC failed. It had all of these failures that show a severe lack of consistency. But what event actually prompted for this form of government to be taken out of circulation and replaced with something new. That leads us to Shays' Rebellion. Remember when I said, remember the inability to pay soldiers? Well, here we are. Daniel Shays was a farmer and a soldier from Massachusetts. The farmers who fought in the Revolutionary War had received little payment and were struggling to make ends meet following the war. Shays led a rebellion where former soldiers stormed the Capitol building in Massachusetts to demand payment. This rebellion really showed all the issues of AOC: lack of money, lack of leadership, lack of everything. President Washington ended the rebellion and noted that it threatened the tranquility of the Union. After the rebellion, Washington took to the Constitutional Convention and asked for them to throw out the Articles of Confederation and start over. Shays' Rebellion really showed that the inability to raise money and collect funds through taxes led to soldiers not being paid. The inability to not have a judicial system led for no court system for the soldiers to legally go through to get their payment. Issues all around, all emphasized by Shays' Rebellion. Just to review, the Articles of Confederation ended due to it having no judicial branch, no strong central leader, no way to raise funds, no common currency, it was difficult to amend, and a lack of control. All of this can be boiled down to one phrase that I've used several times in this video: lack of consistency. Before you go, let's go over some civics EOC questions from the website civics360.com. If you're interested in taking this quiz on your own or checking out more resources, please head over to Civics360 for some additional help. Alright, question number 1. The diagram below shows steps leading to a historical event. Which event below falls between colonial independence and Shays' Rebellion, completing the diagram? For this question, we need to identify the timeline in order of events. We see that independence is granted to the colonies. Then something happens, which led to Shays' Rebellion, which then led to the Constitutional Convention. So you need to ask yourself, what events happened just before that led to Shays' Rebellion? Take a look at the answer options, pause if you need more time, and then we'll go over the answer. The correct answer is the Articles of Confederation, what this whole video has been about. Because of the issues of the Articles of Confederation, that is what directly led to Shays' Rebellion. So anytime on the Civics EOC you see a question about Shays' Rebellion, something should be ringing in your head reminding you of the Articles of Confederation. Question number 2. How did the U.S. Constitution solve a problem created by the Articles of Confederation? For this question, think back, look at your notes. What were the 6 problems that the Articles of Confederation had? Even if you don't know what the U.S. Constitution did to solve the problems, remind yourself, what were the problems of the Articles? Pause the video if you need more time, and then we'll go over the answer together. The correct answer is D. It enabled the federal government to collect taxes. One of the issues that we talked about today in this video was the inability to collect funds, aka taxes. And question number 3. The passage below is from a historical document. How does the U.S. Constitution address concerns that resulted from the federal government described in the passage? The document says, Article 2. Each state retains its sovereignty, freedom, and independence, and every power, jurisdiction, and right which is not by this Confederation expressly delegated to the United States in Congress assembled. Pause the video if you need more time to think about it, and then we'll go over the answer together. The correct answer is B. The new government could settle disputes between the states. One thing that I've really tried to emphasize in this video is that there was a lack of consistency. Each state did its own thing. Each state had its own currency, its own laws, its own trade practices. So this new government under the U.S. Constitution directly addresses that issues by settling these disputes between the states. It says right there in the passage that each state retains its sovereignty, but it still is a part of the U.S. Congress and has to follow the laws of that U.S. Congress. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you were able to get some more information on the Articles of Confederation. If you have any questions about the articles, leave them in the comment section down below. Also in the comment section, let me know what civics video you would like to see next. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!